These are 5 of Atlanta's finest. Each of these police officers suffered life-altering injuries in the line of duty. Each relies on the city for medicine, equipment, and services just to survive. And each one has wondered if a city employee and a workers' compensation company wish they would hurry up and die. This is retired Officer Pat Cochalone. She was shot in the head in 1997 by the man who killed Officer John Soa. She gets severe migraines, takes over a dozen medicines, and had to learn to read and write again. This is Detective Bob Buffington. He was shot in a drug raid in 1977. His circulatory and nerve injuries worsened over the years, and he retired from the force in 1983. He taught at the academy until 2005, when his condition put him in a wheelchair. Detective Richard Williams is still on the job as a school detective. 22 years ago, he was transporting 3 youths who trespassed on school property when one of them, a 15-year-old, shot him in the back. He is paralyzed from the chest down. Retired Sergeant Ryan Finney was responding to a call for an officer in need when another car broadsided his police vehicle. He was partially ejected from his car when it rolled over 3 times and wrapped around a telephone pole. He is paralyzed from the chest down and depends on a motorized wheelchair. And this is retired Detective James Joseph Biello. JJ was shot in the neck in a restaurant holdup in 1987. He is paralyzed with minimal use of one arm. He needs a motorized wheelchair, constant pain medication, and round-the-clock assistance for his basic personal care. How has the city treated them?
I had excellent care up to about 3 years ago.
What happened 3 years ago?
There was a change in management over in workman comp, and as a result of that, my quality of life had been impacted tremendously.
I went 20 years without having to get an attorney. This new group came in. This is Mickey Walker, Tammy Cater, and Lisa Wade. And all of a sudden, my life changed.
Michelle Mickey Walker is the city's workers' compensation administrator. She oversaw claims in 34 states for the Spherian Company before joining the city team. She works with a company called NovaPro to handle the city's workers' comp claims. These officers say that when Ms. Walker and NovaPro started, their lives took a drastic turn for the worse.
Over the last year, every medical treatment that the doctors have recommended they've refused to authorize. Every piece of medical equipment that the doctors have recommended, they've refused to authorize. Most of my medications that have been prescribed, they've refused to authorize.
I would say the first 20 years, I don't think anything has ever been denied. And I would say in the last 2 years, 90% of my medications have been denied.
In 2007 and 2008, they just refused to pay for most of my meds, would not provide me with the Jobst, and refused to pay the doctor to do the nerve block.
The officers say Ms. Walker and NovaPro have delayed and refused to authorize medication, treatment, and repair or replacement for specialized vans, wheelchairs, and other equipment to keep them safe and healthy. These actions can have consequences for people whose health is already compromised.
The door around me, the door that I enter in and out of, the air seeps through that hole, through that door, which actually caused me to be hospitalized with pneumonia.
When comp stopped giving me that drug, it's like immediately I wasn't able to get around to give those, and I started having migraines every day.
Here's what happened to JJ after they ignored his repeated requests to fix the damaged left side of his wheelchair.
So finally, it slipped at the right time. It's gone through a door frame, and I heard snap. Both my tibial and fibula just snapped right in half. And we reported that to Mickey Walker, and she said, well, it's not their fault because I should have had an attendant standing on the left side of my chair. Well, my answer to that was my attendant was on the right side of my chair.
I can get a little cut on my toe that can turn infected, spread to my blood, and kill me overnight, and I wouldn't even feel the cut on my toe. Any kind of delay, even to really basic medical problems, is a serious threat to my health. But when you're talking about a delay of an already serious medical issue, you might as well stick a gun to my head.
How can this happen? Under the law, if the city outright denies medication, treatment, or equipment, it's called controverting. If the city does this, the case automatically goes to a hearing before a judge, where the city has to give a reason for denial. But these officers say Ms. Walker and NovaPro merely refuse to authorize payment for their needs. When that happens, their choices are bleak. Wait months in pain for a hearing. Ask their doctors to fight for them again and again and hope their doctors aren't blacklisted by the city, or pay for expensive treatments the city should provide, but doesn't until just before they're forced to go to court. If the matter's resolved before court, no judge ever sees the pattern in the city's treatment of its disabled officers. Why would Ms. Walker and NovaPro do this to these 5 officers?
Now, if they delay my medical care and they eventually have to pay for the medical treatment anyway, they didn't save anything. Delaying a medical problem, delaying a medical treatment, doesn't save money. In fact, most of the time, it's more expensive because medical complications make a problem worse, and the treatment then becomes more expensive. There is no reason for them to delay a medical treatment for an unnecessary lengthy period of time, unless there's some reason behind it, and the only reason that they stand to gain from doing so financially is if they kill someone and kill that person's claim. That's what I think their intent is.
I hate to say this, but I think there's a lot of malice involved. I've actually been told people in the medical industry that have communicated with these people, and once again, it's going to be right, can't say who it was, said that they're very disappointed I'm not dead yet, that they wanted me to die.
Whatever their motives, Ms. Walker and NovaPro have repeatedly acted in ways that have caused these officers and their families pain, distress, and risk they don't deserve. These officers have messages from Ms. Walker and Mayor Shirley Franklin.
If Mayor Franklin was in this room, what would you tell her?
She's really let me down. I thought she was better than that.
If Mayor Franklin or Mickey Walker were in the room, what would you have to say to them?
They should spend 8 hours in my shoes.
I would say that you ought to be ashamed of yourself, the way you treat people that put their life on the line to make the city of Atlanta a safer place. You ought to be ashamed.
Although I'm injured, I feel that I still deserve a quality of life that anybody else deserves with the city.
I don't see how they can function in a civilized society.
This isn't just a moral outrage for the city of Atlanta. It sends a devastating message to current and future Atlanta officers just when you need them more than ever.
If a young group of officers came to me, I'd tell them, I think you need to look somewhere else.
Would you be a cop again if you could?
Yep, but it wouldn't be here.
If you're going to be a police officer, don't work for the city of Atlanta. If you're going to work for the city of Atlanta, don't risk yourself. Don't hurry up to go to calls. Don't take unnecessary risk with the job.
The quality of life that we are receiving is not measuring up to the standards that the city promised us when we were hired.
My son's a cop, and I told him, I'll help you in any way I can possibly do, as long as you don't go on Atlanta.
They like to say how much I'm a hero, or, you know, excuse me. You don't do to people that to anyone, not even, you don't do it to anyone. And they say I'm their hero?
When I retired, I was given a Distinguished Service Cross by Chief Eldrin Bell, who was the chief of police at the time. I have quite often thought of going down to the city council during one of their meetings and giving it back, because it's just a cheap piece of metal. It doesn't mean anything.
Tell Mayor Shirley Franklin to order Mickey Walker and NovaPro to honor the city's commitment to these broken heroes now, before it's too late.